Hi, guys, and welcome to Take Time Podcast. My name is Kieran, and I had the pleasure of hanging out with a very special person to me, very near and dear to my heart, Gabriela Hnizdo. And about Gabby is I just realized that we've known each other for 10 years. And I met her in college when we were both going to the Fashion Institute of Technology as photography majors. And I didn't really meet her my first and second year. I would say we more so became friends the, third year, after the associate's degree, only to find out that she lived 10 minutes down the road from me when we met in Manhattan, New York. And it's been sort of a really evolutionary, deep, and harmonious relationship we've had over the years. We've always had so much woven path. And even though the situations and experiences were very different, we just always had these collision points where we could just relate and talk and enjoy each other's company and be flat together or pull tarot cards and just melt and just laugh about or find quality in the situations and clarity in what we were going through. And I just always relied on Gabby to be like this amazing person that she is in my life, in my world. I don't know what I would do without her. Gabby is a creator, an artist, a cultivator of joy and creativity in its finest, purest form, really. She is always trying to emphasize the importance of coming back to our child self and enlightening people constantly, just in her ways. You'll see as you meet her in this conversation about how important it is to just be who you are. And she's always showed up as that person to me. And I would say what she's deeply passionate about now is this project Creative Nest. I want to shout out and emphasize her. And it's just getting people back in their body creatively. And with that said, she's also an amazing photographer. And one thing we've really related on a lot, and I wanted to talk to Gabby and have this conversation today about, is people pleasing. And we've spent a lifetime really navigating the world and understanding ourselves a little further in this topic. So without bringing in any more attention to it, here's what we had to say.
I was listening to a podcast yesterday, and it made me think a lot about this topic that you and I have definitely talked about before. And I know we both relate in such different ways to what people pleasing means or is. I think that everyone kind of knows what people pleasing is and not really here to define it. But I think sharing our experiences with it would be really cool. Mm-hmm. And I mean, my first thought was when did this originate? And I was having a conversation actually with Eva and the Four Corner Village, and we were talking about just our stories about things, and it came across my mind as I was just talking and blabbing about myself and my dark times that a huge part of my people pleasing originated when I was a kid, but I didn't really realize how closely related it was to my father. Mm-hmm. Right? And so for me, when it comes to people pleasing, it was an adaptation of survival, as most people's are, and also a way to control the way that my father was allowed to love me, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And this started because he wasn't around very much. And that was kind of a big issue growing up, because he wasn't like really a parental figure. But for some reason, when a parent's absent, it's almost like they matter more to you. Mm-hmm. Probably why I chose all the men in my life I did. Mm-hmm. Something about that absence really makes you attract and want mm-hmm. something that's not there. And in all his absence, even though his opinion shouldn't have really crafted mattering to me, it did, because whenever I had something to tell him, it wasn't good enough. Mm. It wasn't what he wanted to hear. He was never proud of the path that I was taking, or, for instance, going to art school. Mm. He never supported that at all. He said it was a waste of money, a waste of my time. Go be a nurse. They make $100,000 a year, all these made up exaggerations that he had. And, as a kid, when you're in that developmental stage of like 14, 15, 16, 17, trying to decide what you're going to do with your life. And even before that, whenever I had a conversation with him, it was always a put down. Mm. It was like I was never in a supportive, I was never in a job that was like enough. I was never doing enough work. Mm-hmm. And then also on the side of that, I always had a brother to sort of be compared to. Yeah. And he was always doing the right thing to my dad. Mm-hmm. Always, in the limelight, even though like their relationship really wasn't any more close or better. Mm. And so when it came to telling him information, I adapted by learning what he wanted to hear. Mm. Not what I wanted to say, or not how I felt, or not what I was proud of in the moment. Yeah. And so by the time, like, for instance, the college came around and he told me I was basically in a path to nowhere, and I felt like such an atomic loser mm-hmm. the whole time, and going through college and knowing how hard college was and all the work I put in and effort. And Gabby, because we went to the same college, went mm-hmm. to FIT. And it's like on one spectrum of my life, it's like I'm doing this and on this path that feels so important to me and what I really want to do. Mm. And it's really hard. It's not like an easy thing. And there's no support system from the person I want the most. Mm. So I adapted to telling him the information I knew he wanted to hear. Mm. And that was like how much money I was making. If I was making a lot of money, it was like a sinister sort of dead brag of like, whenever I had a photography job, it was like, yeah, well, guess what? You didn't, in my mind, I'm like, you don't believe in me at all. And I was like, yeah, I just made $3,000 in a night. And the thing is, like, even when I told him these things, that was like 1 in a million. I wasn't always making that much money, but it was like finally something to say, hey, I know you'd be proud of me if I told you I made a lot of money. And you're still not proud of me. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it was like, I really doled a lot of my experiences to have a conversation with him mm-hmm. and to feel some sort of a connection with him that wasn't even working, and it wasn't even the key or the code to get through to him. Mm. And so like navigating life in this way, I didn't realize that only telling him what he wanted to hear, or literally talking about the weather our entire lives, because that was a thing too. It's like we really have a deep connection when we're now just talking about the weather all the time because I'm avoiding you. It exactly turned into that personality for me in the real world. Mm-hmm. And I think, and Gabby, we can relate on the word chameleon, which I definitely want to hear from you what this means. Yeah. But just to sort of put a halt in this, it's like I became a chameleon in the world because I reflected the same behavior with all those around me. This chameleon behavior showed up in my relationships, especially I can think of in high school, because I was just young developmental stage. I was in so many different pockets of crowds of people, and I got along with them all. And at some point, some part of each group did like mesh with my personality of like a part of me, but I just divided and conquered. I sort of knew what these people liked and probably only told them what I felt was supportive of that relationship. And I think the most part that I noticed is my really close friends. And I knew that if I had certain situations in my life, I could only go to this person, or I could only go to that person. And I dialed in on people's personalities so much that I knew each person really well, but I'd only go to them for certain things, or I'd only tell them certain things. And I feel like that still comes back to people pleasing, because I'm not just revealing all of who I am to everyone. I'm always taking a part of me and only giving a person a part of me.
Oof. So like essentially fragmenting yourself in a way. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. Oh my God. I love everything about what you just shared. And I know, like you said, like we both relate to like that chameleon kind of bit, like we've both been through a lot of that. Still, like I know like that still shows up every now and then in like current life. It's funny because lately I've been kind of like working with the like relationship with like the masculine people in my life again, like, just to see like, well, what was I afraid of? What did, all those different things with people pleasing. But I've been finding it's been going so much deeper than just like what I experienced in my life. It actually has so much more to deal with, even like ancestrally. Because like we're literally carrying memories from our fathers or mothers, their parents, and so on and so forth for so many generations. And like we might be having the same or similar responses as maybe our great grandmother, to like whatever thing that happened in her time period or her life. Oof. It's like, it's funny because I like feel this one in like my womb and my belly right now. Like when I think of people pleasing, I'm gonna go back to like the fragmenting kind of thing, like just so we can really bridge there. So there's two elements there, right? Like I'm seeing there's like a part that's actually kind of a superpower, because it's where we see people shine, and it's where we're so sensitive that we can actually see like people's personalities like as they are. However, then there's the part that essentially fragments us and hurts us in the long term, that basically you're like omitting a part of yourself every single day of your life. Essentially, you're omitting your truth, like in daily conversations. And like you think about like how many conversations you have a week with people, and it's like you're constantly like trying to pinpoint to this person's personality instead of just like radiating your own. I'm just thinking back to like the times of like, I'm going to go back to say, I don't know, high school, right? Like same here. I did a lot of like competition for dance when I was in those areas. And like both my parents were putting a lot of money towards making that sort of thing, so I could have an experience or whatever. And it seemed like I needed to try to fit in with other groups there, even though it was like, okay, it was like all these like people who I really did not resonate with. But I was like, oh, you like silver bracelets and you like shiny expensive dresses and stuff. So like, oh, look at my dress. Let's like, whatever. Any of those like times I'd like stand next to somebody and like only show like a tiny bit of myself because I was like trying to connect. I could actually feel like the rest of my body screaming internally. And I would actually do worse in competitions when I felt like it was like more of like I had to please the other person even more. If that makes any sense. Like if I was like trying harder to try to reach another person, I would actually do worse because I'd be giving myself anxiety.
I mean, I think also
Yeah.
you were in Irish step dancing.
Yeah.
And you have to wear the same dress. You
Yeah.
wear that same curly hair wig.
Yeah.
And it's like, try to be different in a crowd of the same dance, the same looks.
Right.
You know, that's such like that's like psychological warfare.
Yeah. There's a lot going on.
A child.
Right.
How do you differentiate yourself from the crowd?
Right.
And I think you also had a good point you were making before, but I think the powerful suit of it is manipulation.
Yeah.
We are like master manipulators at the core, which is, you know, manipulation has such like a bad aura around it, but it's how we survive. Yeah. And it is a superpower in a strange way. And like, I'd like to talk about that. Like, what experiences in your life can you think of? Like, you thought by this essence of people pleasing, it was like doing maybe good or something, but really you were just like manipulating the situation or getting an outcome that you wanted. Yeah. And maybe why.
Oh my God. I kind of love this though. So like, I think the first thing I want to go for, because when you mentioned the manipulation thing, I was like, ooh, that like reminds me of like when I had like huge transformation, like starting in college and even like beyond. You know, there's this like saying that like all your relationships are huge mirrors, right? And even back in college, right? Like the partner that I was with at the time, you know, I had realized like I was feeling manipulated like crazy by this person. But of course, lo and behold, you know, like, you know, given space and time from that relationship, I was like realizing, well, how did I even get into that? Because of the fact that I also had experienced being a great manipulator of situations. Maybe it had like a pretty color, pretty picture on it, but, you know, maybe not such bad intentions, but I had basically got myself into that situation because I just wanted a boyfriend, right? I just wanted this ideal situation. I didn't want to live in a dorm. I didn't want to have to go back home and live with my parents in college. So I kind of manipulated the whole situation so that I could stay in this bubble. I almost like covered up the like kind of like the red flags of the situation, but like partially also caused them because I was omitting parts of myself, you know? So like, it's like, shit, like this is where you get into like, oh, I'm the problem too. But like, you know.
Do you think it's only people pleasing when you are omitting parts of yourself?
Good question. It's not always that. It's not always that. You know, like I think there's layers to people pleasing because like omission is like one. Then there's even, keeping things is one. Maybe even trying hard to like reach another person could be another. Could be even going beyond your capacity.
Yeah, you know? I mean, I said in the beginning, you know, I didn't feel like enough.
Yeah.
And so it made me strive for like the love and acceptance of my dad. But then also like I controlled the situation. Yeah. I knew how much I told him. And then after a while, I just numbed myself to it. Yeah. And so like it didn't really bring me any joy. And you know, what's interesting is within the past couple of years, my dad's actually pointed out that like, not like I don't know you sort of, but kind of like Kieran's so secretive, you know, and like kind of calling me out on it. He's like, I don't even know anything about you. And it's like, well, for years you judged the shit out of me and told me I was never doing a good job. Yeah. So yeah, I'm not going to really tell you all the updates, but you know what that really brought? And it's a word that's kind of funny for me because this past year I've been really, I think my whole life I mentally like checked this word out of my vocabulary and dialogue because I just was like, I don't have that. And something I've been like writing about and thinking a lot about and what all of this sort of people pleasing has culminated to at this point in my life is shame. And it's interesting because I think a lot of my people pleasing was to hide my shame. You know, a part of me throughout my life also felt like I wasn't doing enough, or I didn't have a perfect career or a path that was super linear and made sense, and something that like societally drives us all. I didn't have any of that.
Yeah.
And so there was this like internal flame of shame inside my body lit the entire time. And so by telling my dad these like little snippets of almost lies, honestly, just to court his attention elsewhere, away from me, which is the irony, because I wanted his attention. So, and not even his attention, I wanted his love and his respect. And it's like, I almost inadvertently moved his attention completely away from me. Still didn't get what I wanted. And then was like, why don't you love me?
Right? Oh my God.
I've made peace with a lot of this. My dad and I have had a conversation that was really good at a certain point, and that's not what I want to talk about. Yeah, like the shame that builds from chronically people pleasing. It's because we're just not being ourselves.
Yeah.
We're not reaching that point of total altruism with I am me, and I'm proud of that, and I'm so happy to put that into the world and show it off to everyone, because I can't show it off to the people I love the most in my corner, because I don't feel like they love me the same.
Yes. Oh my God. That's like hitting in all these like places right now. Like, can I share something that like really like sparked like when you brought up shame, and like it kind of came up a little bit earlier, but I was like, I'm gonna just let this kind of flow. I think I want to go to the area of like thinking about family, right? And you know, where I really relate to you is feeling shame in my body, but like in this experience of like a lot of the women that are in my family. So, you know, like this is not to say like I don't have any love for anybody, but like, or like, you know, that I'm forever perpetually angry at everybody. But you know, growing up, I had a lot of like really, really amazing women that all took on the strong woman persona. So the very, very masculine, like, I can do it. I have to do it by myself. I can't be supported. This is my job. I have to do it all on my own, sort of like, you know, go-getter thing. And there's some beauty in that. But I realized, like, I was holding a lot of shame within myself because I knew internally I don't want to actually be every part of that. You know, like I want to just be me. And what me is like a little bit more of like grounded, like relaxed, you know, creator, artist, you know, free spirit sort of thing. And it took time to realize that's a totally different archetype, where a lot of like the people pleasing came in, which hiding the shame therefore, you know, was anytime I went to go talk to a family member about something exciting I was doing, be it like go to Japan or go to Ecuador, or like, you know, do something that like our family like maybe has done, but like take it a notch up and like take the timing of it and like the monetary aspects and make everybody question what the heck I'm doing. And it's just like an interesting thing, like being able to like dig deep into like where that shame kind of lies and how it personifies itself in conversations. For me, I would actually get angry, like, and defensive. So I wouldn't necessarily be like, I wouldn't like necessarily shrink, but I would put up a wall with spikes. I'd just be like, hey, you're getting too close to me. Don't touch me. I'm going to do this anyway. F you, you know, whatever.
I think, you know, the first part you spoke about speaks a lot to identity and character development. And, you know, you wanting to go on these bold adventures to sort of speak loud to your family and make a statement of, this is who I am, this is who I'm becoming, this is who I like am learning to be, and maybe not receiving that reaction that you kind of wanted from it. You know, and it's interesting because we all want such a different reaction. And the reaction that we think we want is probably not even the one that we need.
Mm-hmm.
And I definitely learned that the hard way because, I mean, in lieu of all of this, like, I thought my whole life I wanted my dad to say, like, I'm proud of you.
Yeah.
And that really wasn't it. Like, what I needed him to say was to admit that he was a human and he fucked up.
Mm.
And that was so much more potent for me
Mm-hmm.
than him saying, Karen, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of the things you've done. Because I learned in his neglect to be proud of me. And that's the beautiful twist on it.
Wow.
But, and the painful twist on it, really, because you suffer in silence throughout all this. And then one day you come out and you're like, you know what? I'm actually proud of everything I've done.
Yeah.
And then I don't need to hear it from this person anymore.
Yeah.
But I think that the inner child, you know, when we're little and, you know, that inner child wants to hear it and we think that that's what it is and we get attached to that too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, like, I don't think you got the reaction you wanted out of it, which is funny. What do you think? What do you think the reaction you wanted versus, like, maybe a reaction you got later on?
Yeah. Yeah.
How does that hit?
First off, I want to highlight that, like, the internal "I'm proud of me" thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then
hard.
And then answer
hard.
And then because you know, I think in all these things, right? Like, be it creating my own business, right? Like, going on adventures, but doing it in a soft way, and like just living like in a slower kind of pace and all that sort of stuff. I think, you know, little me was just actually like looking for like, Gabby, I love you anyway. Like, do your thing, have fun, just have fun. You know, she was just looking for like a little bit of support. Whereas, like, perhaps the thing that I did need and what I did get was a lot more of like, yeah, there was support. Like, yes, it was there, but in a way of like questioning, a lot of questioning, and a lot of be careful, and a lot of like, are you sure? And you know, it a lot of that has like pulled me in a lot of directions, but at the same time, circling back to that, like, oh, like learning how to be proud of myself sort of aspect, a lot of those questions have actually helped to actually find what it is that I'm doing makes sense. Understand that, like, that's all that needs to make sense to me in this moment. And like, obviously other people do matter. Like, I care. It's not like I don't, you know?
Yeah.
But, you know, maybe that's what my 5-year-old needed, was to be like, no, I trust myself. I am enough.
I trust myself. A couple things come to mind, and it's, we're looking at this view from our parents' influence, and it makes me think about how once you've developed this relationship with yourself and you trust yourself and you do believe in yourself and you are proud of yourself, how the people pleasing in you morphs to the rest of the world.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, you know, before, suffering in silence. And I have to say, the things that I did that my parents really had no part in, and no approval, disapproval, just me out doing my thing, really crafted the person. And there's something to be said about that when we have this, like, almost like necessary but needy experience of wanting our parents to watch us, to watch what we do so that they can just clap and give us pats on the back. But like, it's the part that when no one's around, it's the most important and transformative. And, you know, I think about, for examples, like I think about my senior thesis in college, because we're in that area of our lives sort of, or were, but like talking about it. And I think of like all the work I did traveling to Tennessee and Vermont and shooting film and sleeping in like random houses in these communities and like leftover villages, and then photographing it all, documenting it all, getting to know these people, and then going home and developing it scanning it, printing it, like getting frames, like all the things that it took to do that. And it's like, how do I sit there and go like, Mom, can you just be proud of me now? Or Dad, can you just be proud of me now? It's like, no, I did all that. And I don't even think at that moment of my life I have the knowledge and wisdom to see, looking back at it, how proud I should have been of myself.
Yeah.
But all that example and everything to say, like now when we're in the world, there's other people we're still pleasing in different ways, even though there's like this fluctuation of like, I trust myself and I don't, and I believe myself and I don't. And like, I want to kind of talk about how does the people pleasing aspect change in the world now when we want to create and we want to put ourselves out there, and it's not the gaze of our parents anymore because we don't need that shit anymore. And I come to this conclusion of like the social media death of me. But Gabby, I'm more actually curious about how you feel in that.
You know, it's so interesting because I've actually been toying around with the idea lately that you never really quite like separate yourself from the people pleasing of like the people in your immediate, you know, biological family. So there's this idea that, you know, whoever you meet out on the street or in relationships at work, friends, anything that's like beyond, in one way or another, I don't want to say like in their entire personalities, but there can be aspects of, say, like any of your caregivers or even siblings that show up in other people that you meet. So things that you couldn't heal with, you know, your parents or grandparents or brothers or sisters can actually tend to show up after the fact, you know, like things that weren't safe for you to like work on directly in that like home aspect. And that kind of like shattered a lot of relationships last year, the year of the snake, honestly, for me too, because it's not actually necessarily the other person. It's actually like how we're perceiving them subconsciously, you know? So to like use my life experience as an example is like, I had realized like I had actually gone to like an ancestral healing retreat last year, taught a few classes, and, you know, and also got to receive. And I had realized that I was actually trying to please aspects of my younger mother when I was in middle school through people that I knew.
Wait, break that down.
Yeah, like it's so convoluted. It's so convoluted, bro. It is insane. That's why I was like, what the?
So, can you repeat the phrase?
Yes, I will. Okay, so I had like a huge epiphany, right? Like I was super, first off, I just want to say like I was feeling super sick, super stuck, super like what the heck. And then I had like a huge epiphany like this one or few weeks in a row that I was trying to please a younger aspect of my mother, not the current mother that I have, a younger aspect from my experience of her in middle school, at the age of being in middle school, through other people.
Wow.
So I had to look at who I was being in those relationships and why I even was partaking and what, you know, like, so things.
And also just two versions that don't even exist anymore, but are stuck.
They were
of your mom and you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was living in me. And a lot of it was like, okay, maybe I need to like take a step back for a bit and like undo that, you know, and let that like kind of come out of me, you know, like, and get recycled. But yeah, because like, you know, one of the things that, you know, I really hope to be able to do in relationships is like, obviously, like, be as authentic as I can, but like also understand that the other person deserves friends who can be as clear and authentic with them as possible, right? But then at the same time, it was like such a big realization that I hadn't, it wasn't, I just thought it was regular people pleasing. But then I realized that like literally like 12, 11-year-old Gabby was stuck. Her heart was hurting. She was in pain. And she thought that she had to literally put her needs underneath people and take those people's needs as the end all be all. And that was like slowly killing me.
Knowing you also.
Yeah.
That last statement, that is everyone's needs above yours.
Yeah.
I think that was like one of those things that I totally noticed you were struggling with for a long time, and very much being like the yes woman.
Yes.
You would do anything to keep relationships going with people, even if they were across the damn universe, different time zones, and you would somehow always make yourself available for these people, though.
Right.
And that was something that I love this now, because now you and I, from a similarity of people pleasing, are branching, right? And how your experience with it is entirely different than my experience with the same pattern. And also interesting enough too, it makes me think like yours came from like your mother and mine came from my father. And not to say that means our experiences would be more similar or less similar, but just like drawing those weights of what each individual means to us in our lives. And yeah, I noticed that about you, and I would be like, why does she go so out of her way? Like, but then a part of me admired it, because when it came to business, that was your lead.
Yeah.
That was your charge.
Yeah.
And you knew how to network, because you harvested those relationships. You nested them. You sat on the eggs. Like, and I was just like, fuck y'all, I don't need anybody. I'm just tough girl and independent, and like I'll figure out my own way. Like, I don't care.
Like, oh my god. Yeah.
And so, but I also saw how much it exhausted you.
Yeah.
And I always had this like keen internal sense of like when people were right for me and when their time expired, and when like this was a relationship I wanted to harvest and when it wasn't. And going back to how I adapted, that was my adaptation in entirety. Like when I first meet people, I know if this is going to be a long-term thing, or if it's just going to be like the time.
Yeah.
Like I can tell by people's auras and personalities and energies just when I meet them if like this is going to be a good connection or not. And I've been wrong before. I mean, I've been wrong plenty of times, but that's how my people pleasing shows up. It's actually retraction.
Wow.
And then I almost feel this sense of like isolation because I've judged the situation. I haven't even put myself out there, because why would I?
Right.
Because I'm already assuming what this person is going to like and dislike, if our likes and dislikes matter, and just self-preserving and protecting myself.
Yeah.
Where you're the opposite. You walk in a room, and we had this conversation like 2 weeks ago, and it was like a coffee shop analogy. And I was like, this girl walks into a coffee shop, and everybody like wants to be her best friend, and like you just hold this superpower, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And also, so your people pleasing has had like its rocky forms, but then also bloomed into this personality that you can make friends with absolutely anybody. But does that hurt you or feel good? Do you feel like that is who you really are, or that's the pleasing show? Whereas I'm in the corner like, yeah, I don't like you. Maybe you're cool. Maybe we'll be friends. Like, oh, I really like you. And then, like doing my thing. but and then be like, why don't people like me?
yeah, that's so valid. No, I love that you I love that you brought that up, because I feel like I think that personality has been kind of shifting a little bit, because like over the years I've been learning, I'm like, okay, that's kind of a blessing, but it's also kind of a curse, because it can be a curse if I don't have boundaries. And in many of the cases, I didn't. And like over the years, like learning to have those proper boundaries in place, like at least like knowing where my capacity is at, right? Like, can I even talk to you, right? Like, should I even be in this room full of people right now? Like, is that right? Or, you know, like, because I've gotten into those like situations where I've met a whole bunch of people, and then I just like either implode completely, or like, you know, maybe I got like a few like amazing connections and that was like really cool. But it's like, would I have been able to connect with those few amazing connections had I had better boundaries, right? Like from the get-go. So I do like being able to be social and like be around people, but also I'm finding that like, okay, like maybe I have some parameters in place. Like maybe it's not like hardcore gates and stuff, but it's literally just about so that I can actually show up in a way that feels right and that is not depleted.
What I'm thinking is like, how did anger show up? Because you, I feel, might have gotten to this point of I have all these connections and maybe they're not filling you, vice versa, and then like anger.
Anger.
I feel,
because that's like a big, like, I don't know, you know, like, I think we've spoken about human design and stuff and all that kind of whatnot at one point, but I know mine at least is like, your not self is frustration. And I was like, I'm not feeling me. I'm angry.
Well, it's like so many parts of you are like just pinpointed to all these people.
Yeah.
Whereas like for me, I've always been a quality over quantity person. And I also think because that inner trust was so difficult for me, that sharing myself with people, if I could get deep with you, it really meant something to me. And I trusted you to a level that was so unlike the other people that for me, it made this relationship special. And it wasn't just like all the other people in the room, or there was a depth that caused trust. Instead of these conversations that didn't really were just about the weather. You know what I mean? And you might have found a way to have those depths with so many more people than me, but I didn't trust that. There's too many people. For me, it was like too many people knowing my business and knowing my deepest, darkest secrets. And I was very, very closed off. I didn't want people to try to relate to me. I didn't want people to think I was going through anything bad, even though I was. And it was definitely like an addiction mindset of like, I've always thought like if there was really a problem, like I would never put that on anybody and let anyone know. But then that's like when there's really a problem.
But you know, it's really interesting. I love this because I'm like, okay, like what is actually coming up? Like, you know, I had actually realized this when I put myself in those situations and didn't have a lot of like good boundaries, is that the thing that was actually happening was that I was a really good listener.
You are.
I basically, you know, would just kind of stand there and listen to like a lot of like different things that people were going through. And in some cases, like it worked, you know, and it was great. But then I wouldn't set, you know, parameters for, okay, like this sort of thing. And so many people were like, oh, I feel like great in your presence. Can I hang out with you more? And you know, and I guess like this sort of like part of me, like teenager me, who like didn't really have a lot of friends and was like, oh, let's try this out. Like this person seems interested and they also seem interesting. But then it's like there's kind of like a weird mixed agenda going on in there, like subconsciously for both people rather than a genuine one.
you're like becoming a dumping ground for people's emotions. And therapist.
Mm-hmm. And so that that's where that ties back to the mother wound in a sense, or the matriarchal wound.
And wanting to be softer too.
Yeah, exactly.
You want it to be that like soft space for people. Also, we're like sort of maybe testing out the waters with it.
Exactly. So then I'd just be like, ah! And then it was like, oh, I'm angry now. I listened to too much stuff. No. You know what I mean? It's like, it's interesting to like discover, how, each of our unique like tendencies for, how we express ourselves around people, either hide or please or, orient ourselves so that others just like feel okay in our presence or something like that. Like, it's a totally different experience from like, the way that we both hold space, because I feel like when we set containers, there's a totally different spin on it than like if we're just randomly, like if things just happen. And
I think a lot of, or kind of the direction that we're going in is like this idea of being seen and not seen. Oof. And what we want people to see us as, and our ideas of ourselves. And I think the hard part about people pleasers and myself, I speak for myself, is that the criticism towards myself is so much harsher than the reality of what the other is perceiving too. And the self-image and self-identity that we carry is it's just our thoughts. And it's not really who or what we are. And that we allow that to be so changed and manipulated because, I mean, for me, I think it was a huge confidence thing of not feeling like I liked who I was. Like I'm given this cookie cutter personality. Like I'm this cookie cutter out of a million zillion people. And like, that's all I get. And I don't like it. And so figuring out that identity growing up, but also having this negative mindset of like, I don't even like who I am. I need to be more like these other people. I need to adapt to like get the love that I need and want and deserve. And like what goes through the process of that is insane. I mean, the path it takes when you're so deep in it of dislike to this entity that you've been given, to finding your way out of that, to liking that person is such a hard path. And I don't think that that's really like emphasized about people pleasing, because I'm not even necessarily people pleasing for the people.
Right.
I'm people pleasing to please myself to another degree.
Can we just take a second for that? Like,
it's this insane desperation, honestly, to figure out who I'd be proud of in this world being me. And it takes that chameleon pretending to be this person, wanting to be this person, having an idol, or someone in class who you think is cool or smarter. And then like, also what's coming to me too is like a sibling sort of confliction. Because, in a simple day and world, all we really had were like the people around us, which is our parents at our most basic level, our siblings. And then like the other influence came from friends and other family. It wasn't like all this external social media type of world that we didn't have that growing up as much. I mean, MySpace was there and I definitely utilized some of that, but it's like bringing me to this thought of like, my brother was my biggest influence. And he was also absent like my father. So now I don't have a father, I don't have a brother, and I have a mom who works full time and I don't even see. So who in my world do I look up to, and who inspires me? Who's my mentor? who do I wake up in the morning? I want to be like them.
Yeah.
I never like looked to celebrities or anything to kind of be my role models. I just didn't really feel like there was any relation there. And it was always like real, genuine people to me. And I think that's also why I get along with older crowds more than like people my age and everything, is because I sought for mentors.
Yeah.
I sought the crowd for people I found interesting, and they were always older. They were always more mature and wiser, and I wanted to be their friend. I wanted to dress like them. I wanted to be as pretty as them. And I think there was so much self-comparison and also just bringing back that like denial of self, because when I'm around those people, I don't know how to be myself.
Yeah.
And I think there was like a hard learning curve for me that didn't make sense till I was older. It was like when I was being quiet and more observant and trying to understand what this person did so I could like almost copy them or fit in with them, I didn't know how to be myself.
Yeah.
I was just taking in information and trying to learn something, and then like there was no output of that though. I still couldn't control the parts of me that were always how I was. And when I was around the people who were closest to me that I could, you know, be silly with, put my hair down, let it be frizzy, like wear ridiculous clothing and do dumb shit with, like it didn't occur to me that those are the people that I really should have been putting my energy and time into. But those weren't the people that I cared about their opinions of me. It was the other people that I was observing that I wanted to be more like, that I was nervous in front of. Like those were the people, like my dad, you know, it's like a whole reflection of my dad. Like that those were the people that I cared, thought about who I was and what I was. If I said something dorky or wasn't cool or didn't make everybody laugh or did make everybody laugh, it's like, I think that's like a huge maturation process when you're going through it, of realizing down the lane that the energy that you want to surround yourself with ends up being the energy that you at your truest form just gets along with. Like it's very simple. And instead of trying to expedite who you are just to be friends with people and please them and get along with them and have them think you're cool, it takes so much more energy and all this away from you. And then you realize you're not showing up in the world the way that you were meant to and with the gifts that you're meant to. And I just feel like I spent so much time in between that and not noticing like the beauty in front of me.
Yeah. I'd love to like speak towards like the kind of like idea of like the people that we look like, that we have looked up to and look up to, and like how we try to like copy that, because like I can really relate to that as well, you know, just like having kind of like that mentor. We like strive so much to be like them, but every single one of them in a way has both taught us skills and has also taught us what we don't want. And in a way have actually all brought us closer to what we do want. And then also testing out their ways of doing things is like, oh, that's their way of doing things. It's not meant to work for me. Now I need to go ahead and find what actually works for me. And I love that you said tracing it back to like your closest friends and, you know, like the people that you really, really, truly resonate with, because like those people are going to help you like the most in reflecting back like the actual magic that you bring to the table. But then now you get to apply the skills that you learned with all these other people. You know, I know that you and I are both like kind of growing our own like soul-based like business kind of, you know, things, and you know, just trying things out, and even just doing that kind of like brings out insane amounts of like shadows and rainbows and all kinds of people pleasing and stuff when we're feeling like we're trying to grow stuff and we're trying to appeal to people and we just want to call in our like soul clients and all kinds of stuff.
And you mentioned like relationships being reflection. The world is a reflection as well.
Yeah.
And it's interesting now that like we're adults and we are trying to move into our soul passions and craft and make it into this thing. And when I think of the limitations that I feel on a daily basis, it's like, I care what other people think about me.
Yeah.
And it's like,
yeah. Yeah.
and this has been a huge battle for me because it's crippling.
Yeah.
And it goes back to thinking like what the person who's looking and watching, whether I know them or not, it's like a part of me still cares.
Yeah.
About what I have to say or if there's a message or if it's even worth it, or there's just so much thought that goes into it in my own mind that doesn't go into it from the other.
Yeah.
And I think it also stems a little bit in my perfectionist behavior that I do have. It's amazing that it's still hard to be me and show up and be seen, even though I'm doing something that is me and it's my craft and it's what I want to be doing. I want to show up in this world. I want to have a podcast. I want to do all these things.
Yeah.
And it's like, there's still a wall of me versus me.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's, it's funny. Like, I kind of love that though. Like, right. Like, I think that like that wall is never really quite it's not really meant to like disappear and stuff. Like I think there's actually like a huge benefit to care, like to like having that part that cares, because like that's like the part of us that connect to other people. Like that's the part of us that like that can actually open the door.
It's vulnerability.
Right. It's that bit of vulnerability, but like, oftentimes like, especially right in the case of people pleasing, it's usually that level of care is out of balance. Like just even playing with the idea, right? Like I'm even just spitting, like I'm talking to both of us right here,
Oh, I'm like this is where my therapy session starts.
Like I just thought about it the other day too. Obviously, like we're not meant to just be like these people who are just like, I'm so great all the time, and that's the end of it.
Yeah, it's like the chronic crisis of like, I want to be seen and be recognized, and then I literally want nothing to do with that. I just want to like garden and turn the camera off and put on some music and not talk to anyone. And like, I think that also makes me feel there's a part of me that wants to expose myself to the world in a way that's like super received by people. Like I don't want negativity.
Yeah.
I want people to see that that's not what I'm trying to put out there.
Yeah.
But then also like the fears backed behind it that make me want to not be seen and hide in a potato fish suit, and
gotta call it back just for the moment, yeah. It's really interesting to that topic. I actually had a crazy dream the other night that was dealing with the emotion of embarrassment and humiliation. And I don't think I've really ever, like I have felt embarrassed before, but like never by a huge amount of people. And in this dream, it was like, somebody was mad at me and then they woke up a room of sleeping people and now the whole room was angry. And it was just like an interesting way of like, how do we receive that? Like obviously that's a difficult situation to be in, but it's also like so many people do deal with that on like a daily basis, like
who are you going to show up as?
And
I think that sort of goes to this point of why do you want everyone to like you?
Yeah.
Maybe we can kind of dissect that, like deep down, why do we want that?
Right.
Why does that feel good? Why isn't it feel more rewarding to just be okay with like no, this is who I am, how I am, and I don't want everybody to like me.
Yeah.
Let's play with that.
In the experience of myself and so many people is like sometimes even like an ancestral thing, right? Like we could think about like history, right? And like how that lands in our bodies. To many people, including myself, being liked feels safe. And that goes back to like that like safety, like control, manipulation kind of tactic of people pleasing. You know, it's like it feels safe, it feels easy. Meanwhile, it's really not safe because you're still trying to control the situation in a sense. It's a like a level of safety or, you know, even comfortability. You know, if I don't have to deal with conflict, then everything's okay.
Ooh,
you know,
I don't feel this internal need to be liked by everyone. I think it goes back to like this wanting to be liked by specific people, and those specific people hold this really high, almost like pedestal feeling for me. I've made them more important than they really are, and the sad part about that is because I've heightened someone else's existence and lowered my own. That for me is definitely something I spent a lot of time disliking myself over.
Oof, yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like why we give value to other people more than ourselves. Like we like give that away because we see something in someone that we don't see in ourselves.
Yeah. And I wonder too, like, if I could ask this question is like, do we feel like there is some connection to what comes with positive, I guess, kind of feedback? Even just going to think about like, you know, receiving something that we wanted from somebody that, you know, we maybe put on a pedestal or something. Like maybe there's a little bit of like, I don't know, like there's like chemical input to that, like some dopamine or something like that, or maybe it goes deeper than.
Imagine that it has a lot to do with just like the parental thing, you know, it's like we're born this little being and then we're taught to give value to two people in our lives and immediate value, because if I cry, they come to me. And then like we kind of extend that to our siblings if we have any. And if we don't have any, then that sort of stays in that unit. And so like our whole lives we're just taught to value people. But I think it's interesting when we start to pedestal people, because I don't think we put our parents on a pedestal necessarily. But most of the time we see all the flaws in our parents.
Yeah, correct.
But it's like what within us sees someone else and thinks that person's better. I'm not enough. And then I think that is like a really big trigger for like this people pleasing, because how do I survive? How do I become enough?
Right.
And then that person becomes a visual, physical representation of something we want to be.
Yeah.
And I think that's necessary to a degree, actually, because it's influence. And I think that influence is necessary to build character, because what you said, I mean, we get to decide what we don't need, and what we don't like.
Right, exactly. Like, and even to like that point too, it's like I had a mentor at one point, and something that they had said was like, when you see somebody doing something that kind of feels a lot like you want to do, and they look and remind you of yourself, but like an older version of yourself, that can actually be like inspiration for you to be able to like step up. But it's like, again, like it comes back to the idea of balance, right? So it's like great that person is, you know, like a little bit of like a moth to a flame sort of situation, but at the same time it's like have that awareness of, are you putting this person on a higher pedestal or higher ground than you're on, when you're both on the same planet.
And it's a lot of like illusion. You know, how many times have you met someone and been like, oh my gosh, this person's like the coolest person ever. They must have such a cool life. And you start writing this storybook about this person because she has nice hair and she's pretty, or she's like really talented at a show and she's like playing guitar on stage, or you know, you're walking by a stranger getting mail.
Right.
And then it's like all of a sudden, who am I?
Yeah, who the heck?
Why do I exist?
Right.
It's a lot of this illusion.
Yeah.
You know, that's just our thoughts.
Yeah.
And I think that is like the purest part, is that all of this is so in our heads, and it's so thought based. And like, imagine the things we could do in the world if we didn't just like compare to put ourselves down, or compare to pedestal someone, or just allowed ourselves to like take the armor off and like be, even if someone's listening, and even if I might feel embarrassed, or like that someone's you know, around the corner listening or whatever, you know. It's like, to let ourselves do that is like insane. And I think like those were some pivotal moments in my life where it's like, very few moments come to me where I was sort of surrounded by a lot of more than two people and been a freak.
Yeah, totally. I think I want to highlight too, like the word allow, like to allow, like there's like literally, that's an art. Allowing is an art form, and it like reminds me of that book, Let Them. You know,
shout out Mel Robbins.
Yeah, we love her. We love her out here. For you know, whatever it is, like the more we even just let other people just do them, the easier it becomes to like let us do us. You know, just let me be me if I want to be me.
I have a story. Because this is reminding me of it, and it's funny. So you showed me the Osho Zen release for anger.
Yes.
Okay. This girl, I was in a really dark point, distressed. And this girl sends me voice recordings, videos, pictures, diagrams, basically, of how to do the Osho Zen anger release. And I'm not really an angry person. But I just had gotten to this tipping point. I was working in Wyoming, and like, talk about a job made for a people pleaser. I was working at a Forbes 5-star resort. Like, it was like, whatever must I and may I do for you? Absolutely. I'd love to. I'd love nothing more than to serve you, type of place for a whole summer. And I had really high positions that like forced me to just be on point, happy, chipper, perky, everything. Like, always a show. 15 hours a day I put on this show, and I'm really good at it, and a part of me does like it because it's kind of fun, but the other part was dying. And I was like, Gabby, I'm at a tipping point. I'm so tired. I'm not having any fun anymore. Like, I'm so stressed. I'm mad. I was like, I don't know why, but I'm really mad.
I remember that.
And so Gabby's living across the country at the time. She sends me this extensive kit of what to do. And I have a little yoga yurt. It's a really beautiful space. I was obsessed with it. And it gets really hot in there after 12 p.m. So I had both doors open, front and back. And then it was like an oven. And I decided this is where I need to do this release. And mind you, a little walkway away is like the kitchen and also the dining area where people eat and have dinner. And all the cooks and the chefs are cooking, and they got the windows open, mind you. And then there's like a dining room of people like in there. And this was probably the first time in my life I was like, I didn't even think of that. And I was like, I don't give a fuck. And if you know anything about this release, which Gabby does, it involves some pretty freaky shit. And you're like,
yeah,
screaming, chanting, bouncing, like hutting, and crying,
boogers
not normal shit.
Out the nose, yeah. Everything.
Music is playing, like not normal shit. And like it's supposed to be the way, because like you gotta release, you gotta like pull this shit out of the ground, and then through you. And I'm in the middle. I think I'm like song like 3 or whatever. So I'm in it. And I'm like, I've already cried. I've already screamed. I've already hooded. My brain's out. And like, I remember my 2 coworkers coming over and standing in the doorway, like looking at me, and they're like, Kieran. And I'm like, and they're like, I'm like bouncing up and down, and they're like, are you good? And I didn't even stop. I didn't even stop bouncing. I was like, I'm good. I just need time. I was like, I couldn't even think of anything else to say. I was like, I just need time. And they're like, okay, Kieran, like, we can hear you. And it's like, I didn't even close the fucking door.
Wow.
And for me, being this person who really has to appear perfect all the time.
Yep.
And holds this to like who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And like normally I would have been mortified. I think I was also in such a state of nervous system attack that it was like if I cried and crumbled, kind of like Ecuador, like it didn't matter. It shattered. Like, and it takes a lot for me to get to that point and to expose myself that way.
Yep.
And this was a more like humorous kind of funny thing. And
Yeah.
not while I was going through it, but like looking back, they were literally standing in the doorway, like, what the fuck is she doing? Is she like okay? Like, what kind of weird ritualistic shit is she up to? Like, we know she is weird, but so she was not weird. Like, and again, these are all like those thoughts that we have, like thinking someone's judging us while we're going through this experience. But it was something I really needed. I really needed to do that. And it was like that moment, and just that moment, but like that moment that I like was allowing myself to like be exposed, allowing myself to like be messy and like to release stuff in front of people who weren't even in the safe container releasing stuff with me in a strange way. You know, a lot of times in those settings where like with other people who are like-minded and like down to get weird. And it's like, I just was in that experience, but I wasn't actually alone. And there was listening and you know, I feel like normally that would have been something that's super embarrassing for me because I would have been like, I can't allow anybody to see me like this.
Yeah.
And that summer definitely broke me a bit. Like, talk about being a people pleaser and then crying in front of someone is like a difficult task.
Huge one. Wow. That literally brings me back to France where I learned like that exercise. And the funniest thing was that I remember the time that I had learned that exercise, like right before I went to like the center that, you know, like I stayed at, I ran into this medium for the second time after like a year and a half. In some random square in Paris. And she's like, oh my God, I was just thinking about you yesterday. I think this time in France is going to be the time that you do whatever the heck you want and don't care, you know? And like, so the interesting thing about France and Paris for me is that I experienced exactly those feelings that you kind of like talked about, was like basically just like pure expression, just doing you. And people are around, they're everywhere, but they also like kind of don't really like, they're just there, you know. You get to have the experience that you need to have, like, you know, or if you feel like you don't want to be in a place, you just walk out, find whatever, you know, like, and you're okay with it, you know. It's a lot of it's just like taking up space, you know, be it emotional space, physical space, mental space, whatever, like just knowing what you need and doing it.
And I think being so secure in yourself that you don't care. I mean, I just think of like New York City as the best example of that. It's like how much people are just doing the most strangest, uncanny shit. And it's just like, that's happening, you know. And it's like, why do we like care so much?
Why do we care so much?
I mean, and it's a daily practice for me of like caring what people think. I do feel so much more liberated when I just like am myself, and it's not like me picking up on other people's emotions and then adjusting myself to them. Because I definitely feel very empathetic in that way. I could walk in a room and smell stink, and then I'm like, ooh. But it's like not letting that stink infiltrate me. It just goes out instead of like in. And that's something I've been like working on for sure. And also like it's just a beautiful thing. It's a part of my path to learn to really be able to let go of this part of myself. Like I've used this as a tactic for adaptation for my entire life, you know, and now it's like, well, maybe we like don't need this anymore. And totally. Just I think something to be said that it doesn't like ever go away. It's just lessened and you've adapted and you've hopefully like brought awareness to it and sort of found your way through it. Or like in my story, it's like I can sit there in that moment and be like, how do I want to show up? Like, do I want to show up as the girl who spent her entire life like ashamed because of what my parents might have thought or what I thought my brother thought or the things I made up in my head with friends? Or it's like, do I want to just show up as this like loving, supportive person and fuck it. You can't beat them, join them. Like, right. You know?
What have we gained from today? Like, what have we learned?
I think the important people aren't going to judge you or care. Why care about the ones who are unimportant? Who won't see you for you, will make their own judgments of you. And so I think at the end of the day, it's like really just working day after day to try to keep showing up as you, the best you are, and bringing awareness to when like the people you're around that make you feel a certain way or make me feel a certain way, and like seeing that, but then also not changing them, because half the thoughts that you have are just illusions you've made up about what you think someone is thinking about you, and really it's just you. And I'm saying this to myself because I really need this. It's like to sit here and deny myself something I could be really good at in the world or bring a lot of awareness to in the world based on my voice and trying to hide my voice and not representing any of who I am, then that's the real shame. People go a whole lifetime without allowing themselves to be expressed. And I think that every person has something to offer.
Basically just developing like this practice of being able to radiate from inside out, you know?
We just need to show up as our baddest, best selves and
that's it.
Rule the world.
That's it.
You know, everyone else is doing it. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Kieran. Thank you, thank you. This was awesome.
Yeah. 2,000 miles away, we can still get to the core.
Yes.
And then you're a phenomenal listener, and I think like so many times in my life, you just were there for me in those times, and we did tarot cards spread out on the floor, and you know, talked about all of the things going on, and then somehow they intertwined, and we were always going through the same things, but like in that slightly different like unison. And like you've been there for so long for me, and it's just always a pleasure, and I'm just glad that like we can kind of maybe give the rest of the world a little bit of the like amazing time that we are so lucky to have spent together, you know?
Oh, thank you, my dude. I really appreciate this time. I mean, all our talks have culminated to this very moment, you know?
And there will be many more.
This was so needed today, and I'm grateful to be able to share with you.